Okay, so let's start. I think today some of you have webinar. Those who are having marketing specialization. So we'll take class till 12:25. Okay, because at 12:30 the girls they are having webinar. Okay, so let's start with today's topic. In last lecture we discussed about the ecosystem, how ecosystem works, what are the structural and functional concepts of ecosystem. Okay, how it structurally look like, what are the structural and functional aspects. So let me share first. Okay, so can you see the screen? Is it visible, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So in last lecture we discussed about the ecosystem, the concept of ecosystem, and the different ecosystem. Means ecosystem is based on two types, that is terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. Then the natural and human modified ecosystem, understanding the ecosystem, and structural and functional aspects of ecosystem. Now today we are going to start with the most important part of the ecosystem, structural part, that is producer, consumers and decomposers. Okay, so every one of us knows that what is meant by producer, consumers and decomposers. So in every living organism is in some way dependent on other organism. Like plants, they are the food producers. Plants are the food for herbivore animals. Herbivore means those who eat only the plants, or the animals who, those who are depends on the plants for their food, which are in turn food for carnivorous animals. Means herbivore at the base, producers, that are the plants, then herbivores feeds on the plant, and then carnivorous animal, those who feeds on the herbivorous animals. Okay, so these are the different trophic levels in the ecosystem. See here you can see the trophic level, the producer, the primary consumer, that is the herbivore, secondary consumer, it can be carnivore. Okay, so these are the various trophic level in the in ecosystem. Whose mic is on? Will you please switch off your mic? Ragini, Sejal, will you please switch off your mic? Okay, thank you. So plants are the producers in any ecosystem, as they manufacture their food by using energy coming from the sun. Means by using the sunlight in the presence of oxygen, carbon dioxide and water, plant prepares their food, and that's why we are calling them as a producer. In the forest, these form of communities, and these community they forms the producer. And in the sea again, which are the producers? These are the plants are the producer on the for the terrestrial ecosystem. But same in case of sea or in case of aquatic ecosystem, these ranges these range from tiny small algal forms to a large seaweeds. Okay, we are talking about the producers. Now, second one is the herbivorous animals, those who feeds on the producers. To herbivorous animals, we call as a primary consumer. Again, here you can see these are the producers and primary consumers. the first, second trophic level. As they live on the producer, that's why we call them as a primary consumers. And in a forest, these are the insect basically. Who are the primary consumers? Insect, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and few mammals. And the herbivorous animals include like for example hare, deer, elephant, those who live on the plant. Okay, these are the herbivorous animals or the primary consumer. They graze on the grass and feed on the foliage from the trees. And in grassland even there are herbivores such as blackbuck, chinkara. See, here you can see the examples of herbivores and carnivores. Blackbuck and chinkara, these are the animals which are present in the grassland ecosystem. Okay, this is about the herbivores. Now carnivorous means again it is a higher trophic level. Here you can see carnivorous animals, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. These are the carnivores. Okay, so again carnivorous or the secondary consumer are the animals like tiger, leopard, jackals, foxes and small wild cat. This is about the terrestrial ecosystem, and in case of aquatic ecosystem, whale is also a carnivorous or the secondary consumer, which feeds on the small fishes. Okay, this is about the carnivorous animals. Now moving towards the decomposer, the next topic level, that is the decomposers or detrivores. These are a group of organisms consisting of a small animals such as worms, insect, bacteria, fungus, which break down the dead organic material into smaller particles and finally into a smaller substances that are used by the plants as a nutrients. Okay, when there is a decay material of plants and animal, the decomposer feeds on that dead and decay material and converts its organic material into simpler form, and that organic like carbon, nitrogen, proteins, they can degrade it and it gets mixed into the soil, and from the soil plant absorb it as a nutrient through their roots. Okay, so thus decomposition is a vital function in nature. If decom- uh, as without this all the nutrients would be tied up in a dead matter. If dead matter it will not get decomposed, what will happen? All the nutrients from the ecosystem it get tied up in a dead matter and no new life would be produced because plants are producing the energy, and if the plant will not get nutrient from the soil, if the decomposition will not be there, plant will not get there a nutrient from the soil, and all the nutrient it get tied up in the dead matter. Okay, so that's why these decomposers, although they are very small insects or worms or bacteria, microscopic organisms, but they perform the very important function in the ecosystem. So they are the most important part of the ecosystem. Okay, in any ecosystem. So most of the ecosystem are highly complex and consist of an extremely large number of individuals of wide variety of species. And in the species rich tropical ecosystems such as India. In India we are having different types of ecosystem, and in that ecosystem different types of plants, animals, they all are present. So some species of plants and animals are extremely rare. Okay, and they may occur only at few locations. These are said to be endemic to this area. Means suppose a particular plant or particular animal, if that animal is found in only a particular area of India, in the particular region of India, to that plant or to that animal we call as a endemic. Endemic because it is we are finding that plant or animal in a particular area only, not everywhere. Okay, so these are said to be endemic. Okay, so this is about the different trophic levels of the food chain. Here you can see one food chain. Again here different trophic levels, trophic pyramids are there. But decomposers, they are required for each and every trophic level. Again here you can see the light is coming from the sun. Their plants, they are preparing their food. Then herbivore, then carnivore, then their dead bodies, it is getting decomposed by fungus or the microorganism, and it is again absorbed by the plants. Okay, so this is about the producer, consumer and decomposers. Now energy flow in the ecosystem. How energy flows in the ecosystem? So every ecosystem has several interrelated mechanisms that affect human life. Okay, and these are like a water cycle, carbon cycle, oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle and energy cycle. While every ecosystem is controlled by these cycles, means the flow of energy in the ecosystem occurs through these different types of cycles, and each ecosystem's biotic and abiotic features are distinct from each other, although it is controlled by these cycles, and but the biotic and abiotic features of the each ecosystem, they are distinct from each other, and all the functions of the ecosystem are in some way related to the growth and regeneration of its plant and animal species. Okay, and this interlinked process can be depicted as a various cycles, and all these processes depend on the energy from sunlight. Sun is the main source of energy for the earth, and during photosynthesis carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plants and oxygen is released into the atmosphere. We know that what happens during photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which plant prepares their food. So what happens during photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plants and oxygen is released into the atmosphere. So animal depends on the oxygen for their respiration. Water cycle depends on rainfall, which is necessary for the plants and animal to live. So all these cycles, they are interlinked with each other. And our own lives also closely linked to the proper functioning of these cycles. If these cycles, if they will not function properly, it will affect the life of human beings and all other organism of the environment. Okay, so moving towards the very first cycle, that is water cycle. Water cycle, or it is also called as hydrological cycle, we already discussed in the natural resources. When we studied about the different types of resources, that is water as a natural resource, we studied about the water cycle, but still I'll repeat it once again. See, here you can see the water cycle, very simple. It is also called as hydrological cycle. It collects and purifies and circulates the earth finite water supply. When it rains, the water runs along the ground and flows into rivers or falls directly into sea. During the raining or in the rainy season, when it rains, the water it falls on the soil. Some of the water it flows into river, in stream, in lakes, and it may directly falls on a sea.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, meeting get now.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes.
Ma'am, some people are waiting to join the meeting.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so water cycle basically it starts from the raining. When it rains, the water runs along the ground and flows into rivers, or it may fall directly into the sea. And some part of the rainwater that falls on the land, it percolates into the ground and thus recharging the ground aquifers. And whatever the ground aquifers present inside the ground, underground, they get filled because of this rainwater. Okay, so water is drawn up from the ground by plants along with the nutrient, and that percolated water, plants absorb that water through its roots with some nutrients from the soil, and the water then transpires from the leaves as a water vapor and returns to the atmosphere. So very first, when water rainfall is there, few of the water it flows into the sea and few it get absorbed by the soil, and that water it get again absorbed by the plants to their roots with some nutrients, and from the leaves of the plants there is a evaporation of water in the form of water vapor, so that we call as a transpiration. And that water vapor, when it reaches to the high in the air, it rises higher in the air, it get condensed, and because of the condensation, that water vapor it change into a droplets, and that droplets it falls on the land in the form of water, that is precipitation. In transpiration, condensation, precipitation. Again, same thing happens with the sea. Because of the sunlight, water get evaporate in the form of water vapor. Water vapor, they rise high in the atmosphere. They forms the cloud. There is a condensation of cloud. The water vapor, it cools down and it get converted into droplet. And again, there is a precipitation or rainfall. So here it completes the water cycle. So part of this rain, when there is a rainfall, part of the rain it get locked into the glaciers also. Okay, so thus the process of evaporation from water bodies, then transpiration from the leaves, condensation of water vapor, and evaporation, and the precipitation and the percolation forms an endless cycle. It forms an endless cycle. Okay, so uh, this, although this cycle is water circulates in the atmosphere or in the environment through this cycle, but the natural process of the water cycle also removes the impurity from water. During this water cycle, there is a removal of impurities from water. Okay, so this is about the water cycle. Now moving towards the next important element, that is carbon cycle. Okay, it is very simple carbon cycle. The carbon is the most important compound present in every organism. Okay, the carbon found in organic compound included in both biotic and abiotic parts. We know that the carbon is a element which is present in biotic as well as in abiotic parts. Okay, carbon is a building block for both plants and animal tissue, and the carbon cycle is based on carbon dioxide gas, that is CO2. In terrestrial ecosystem, CO2 is removed from the atmosphere by plants, and in aquatic ecosystem, uh, in the terrestrial ecosystem, CO2 is removed from the atmosphere, and in aquatic ecosystem, CO2 is removed from the water. Okay, so how it starts? See, the carbon cycle, it starts from the plants and the sunlight. Again, sunlight. We are coming to the sunlight, as it is very important source of energy for earth. Okay, so in the presence of sunlight, plants take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through their leaves. Plants absorb the CO2 from the atmosphere, and that carbon dioxide with water, which is absorbed by the plant through their roots from the soil, it forms the carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight. That process is called as photosynthesis. Means by means of photosynthesis, plants are producing carbohydrates. Carbohydrates which contain carbon. Okay, so the carbon dioxide, carbon from carbon dioxide is converted into carbohydrates, again having carbon. Okay, so plants use this complex mechanism for their growth and development, that is photosynthesis. In this process, plant release oxygen into atmosphere. At the same time, when they are taking CO2, they are releasing the oxygen in the atmosphere, on which animals depend for their respiration. Okay, so herbivorous feeds on the plant material which is used by them for the energy and growth. Okay, both plants and animals release carbon dioxide during respiration. Even plants also release the carbon dioxide during respiration. They release oxygen during photosynthesis, and they release carbon dioxide during respiration. Okay, they also return fixed carbon to the soil in the waste they excrete. Means human being, we are releasing carbon in the atmosphere through the waste, and even when plants and animals they die, they return carbon to the soil. Again completing the carbon cycle. Okay. So carbon cycle, whose mic is on? Will you please unmute yourself? Ritika, will you please mute yourself? So in this way, there is a completion of carbon cycle. Okay, so starting from the plants, starting from the sunlight, plants they are absorbing the sunlight, preparing their food, storing in the form of carbohydrate, which contains the carbons, and that other plants and animals they are feeding on the plants, and they are taking carbon from the plants. Again, when there is a death and decay material, it get decomposed. There, it makes into the soil, and again from the soil, plants absorb it through their roots. So here it completes the carbon cycle. Okay. So equally in the ocean, in case of ocean, oceans play a crucial role in the carbon cycle. Will you please mute Rutika? So, am I audible, girls? Yes or no? Am I audible? Yes or no? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, equally, oceans play an important role in the carbon cycle. Some CO2 is removed by the marine species during photosynthesis and some dissolved in the seawater. Okay. So, carbon cycle ensures that CO2 is acceptable level. On carbon cycle ensures that CO2 is at acceptable level, and this in turn moderates the temperature for the life to exist. If the carbon cycle removes too much carbon, what will happen? The atmosphere will become cool, and if too much carbon is added to atmosphere, the atmosphere will be warmer. We know that because of greenhouse effect there is a global warming, and greenhouse effect um, is causing because of the greenhouse gases, and greenhouse gases they contains carbon. Okay, so if the more amount of carbon is in the environment will be more hotter. Okay, so current climate models show an increased concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere, resulting in the climate change phenomenon. Okay, and because of that the environmental problems faced by the world today. Okay, so this is about the carbon cycle, starting from the plants, again plant to herbivore, herbivore to carnivore, then dead and decay material, it gets mixed into the soil, and from soil again into the plants. The carbon cycle. And to this, next is the oxygen cycle. Oxygen cycle is nothing but it is associated with carbon cycle. It is very short and simple. See, oxygen is absorbed by the plants and animals from the air during respiration, and plants return oxygen to the atmosphere during photosynthesis. So, this links the oxygen cycle to the carbon cycle. There is a link between oxygen cycle and carbon cycle. Oxygen is absorbed by the during plants and animal during respiration. Okay, oxygen. Now you will ask, ma'am, how plant can absorb the oxygen? Plant also absorb the oxygen during respiration. They release oxygen during photosynthesis. Okay, so don't get confused. For respiration, plants and animals also, both of them, they need oxygen. Okay, so if they are taking oxygen from the environment or from the atmosphere, they are returning oxygen to the atmosphere during photosynthesis. Who? The plants. So this links the oxygen cycle to the carbon cycle. It is very simple about the oxygen cycle. And deforestation is likely to gradually reduce the oxygen level in the atmosphere, because plant they provides us the oxygen, and if the oxygen level drops in the atmosphere, it is just because of the deforestation. Thus, plant life plays an important role in our lives, the enormity of which is frequently failed to appreciate. Nowadays, we are facing the shortage of oxygens. Most of the hospitals they are not having enough oxygen supply for the COVID patients. So, if we appreciate the of efforts of the plants. अगर हमने जंगल तोड़ नहीं की होती, डिफोरेस्टेशन नहीं किया होता, तो आज ये टाइम नहीं आता. So always respect the nature, always respect the mother earth. What we are getting is priceless. What we are getting from the plants, it is priceless. Nowadays people are paying so much money for the oxygen, but the plants, they are giving us it in the free of cost. Okay, so this is about the oxygen cycle. So I think we'll stop here today because few of the girls, they are having webinar. Okay, Arshada, please take the attendance and send it to me. Okay, if you are having any doubts, you can ask. Any doubts related with this topic? Any doubts? Yes or no? No. Okay, so now this is for today only. In next lecture, we will discuss about the next cycle, means most important elements, that is phosphorus and sulfur. Okay, we'll discuss in next lecture, and how energy get flows by means of these cycles, integration of these cycles in the nature, that we'll discuss in the next lecture. Okay.